Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, hey, welcome into the program. Today on the show, we have computer and technology news, and don't worry, we have a ton of it. We hope that you've enjoyed the past week of shows, as well as yesterday's show where we got to talk to, Mr. Marty Cooper, who again was the inventor of the cell phone. Really fun talking to him, and like I said during the interview, he was a lot of fun to talk with because he mixes some of my favorite guests. He is an inventor, he's a researcher, he's an author, and of course he's a futurist. I think all of those put together make for an amazing guest. So if you didn't catch that, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find past shows, future shows, all the shows. There you can also find links to the podcasts available on any platform that you get podcasts from. And you should definitely check that out. And of course, show notes, links, social media, contests, and more, computeramerica.com. Now, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and jump into computer and technology news? And yeah, we'll have a nice relaxing Friday. Oh, by the way, happy Good Friday to everyone out there. Let's go ahead and get started. Here we go. Okay, how about we go ahead and make this happen? So, trying to see if there's any last thing here, if we need to. I think we're actually good. Okay, that's good. All right, so for our first story, we have a ton of different stories that we can definitely talk about. We can talk a little bit about North Korea, a little bit about South Korea. We could talk a little bit about Google and some of the changes that they're making with Android, which I think are really amazing changes. But how about this? Yesterday was, of course, April Fool's, and I'm sure that a lot of you out there saw, articles, stories, and products that, they weren't really going to be a thing. This one, though, looks like it caught enough fire that people are like, hey, we actually want that. And I think it's super cute as well. Ever since Xbox came out with their latest console, a lot of people have compared it to refrigerators. It's big, it's boxy, it's not, sleek and stylish like the PlayStation. But you know what? Hey, as long as it runs good, right? Well, looks like thanks to a particular poll, I think this was a poll. Yeah, it was definitely a poll. Microsoft is now going to deliver on Xbox Series X mini fridges. There you go. So Microsoft's Aaron Greenberg promised official Xbox Series X mini fridges if the company won a Twitter brand competition. And he's been true to his word, saying that he told his followers that Microsoft would move forward with plans for the Series X fridges, which you can see it there on the screen. That's kind of the best part about it, is that it's essentially going to look like an Xbox Series X with of course the logo on it, and but it's going to be a fridge instead of a console. He didn't offer prices, availability, or even a glimpse at the fridge. I'm sure this was a joke, but hey, they actually are going to do it apparently. They said that they'll be easier to accommodate at home than the full-size fridges Microsoft made to capitalize on the internet memes. So the first fridge will go to Twitter rival Skittles, and in case you're wondering, no, this is not a belated April Fool's joke. By the way, the contest you can see right here, saying thanks to everyone who voted, and of course it was down to the wire. Xbox came over Skittles by about 1% swing. And yeah, Xbox won the contest, saying it's easy to see why Microsoft would do this. It's attention grabbing, and of course, it could help draw some console buyers away from the PlayStation 5. I mean, yeah, it's free advertising, but you know what? It's just fun. And at the end of the day, even a corporation the size of Microsoft, you know what? There's still people in there, and people like to have fun. This is a good, clean way to have fun. And hey, mini fridges. I'm sure that any kind of profit margin is going to be very, very small, because odds are they're just going to slap an Xbox Series X sticker onto a regular fridge. You know, hey, they might get more involved, but still, it's easy, it's clean, and yeah, you could definitely see it there. So, honestly, you know, I personally love having a mini fridge in my office. So might have to upgrade. Mine's like 15 years old. I'm sure it doesn't meet a ton of the latest standards for, kind of efficiency or anything like that. So, hey, maybe for Christmas, this will be out, and maybe I'll be sporting the new Xbox Series X mini fridge, but probably not the console. So, but hey, okay. Now, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and continue on here? That was the first one. It was fun. How about the second one? We can get a little bit more serious with this. Okay. How about we talk about E3 real quick? This will be a quick story. E3, obviously one of the largest, if not the largest gaming convention, or at least convention focused on gaming, I should say. It's a very, very large convention. Every year, companies try to get their little piece of the media pie, and try to capitalize on what E3 does by putting the show together. Well, last year famously canceled. This year they mentioned it is also canceled. They will stay all digital. And this is actually in a tweet saying that E3's 2021 digital show is a free event for all attendees. We're excited to fill you in on all the real news for the event very soon. So essentially, no physical place, and it'll be all digital and completely free, which is great. E3 has, over the past couple of years, tried to move away from the exclusive media-centric kind of convention and try to turn it into a public-oriented, pay for your ticket and see everyone present like the latest games. As a member of the media, I can't say if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, the media is going to get their scoop either way, even if they see it, seconds after it happens, as opposed to, anything like that. But, for everyday people, I think it really goes to show just how popular video games have gotten. So, yeah, it's all digital event, and it should be and more details should be coming out soon. But it's in-person events canceled. That's the long story of it. Okay. So there's that one. This next one, and this might be the biggest story of the day. Well, biggest and smallest at the same time. As I really don't know the true market share of this, but LG, them, they make appliances, they make TVs, and hey, maybe you didn't know this, they make smartphones. Kinda. Now, on April 5th, everyone is expecting this, so next Monday, LG will be shuttering its smartphone business on April 5th. LG has struggled to maintain prominence in a competitive mobile market, and as a result, the company is reportedly preparing to announce that it will shutter its smartphone business. Not very often you get one of these major players to, kind of step out of the space like this. So, according to the Korea Times, LG will announce that it will pull out of the smartphone market on April 5th after failing to turn a profit for the past few years. And I think that's, kind of obvious that most of their competitors, thanks to thanks to COVID and all the things like that, smartphones are actually one of the few luxury goods that have been selling well and continue to sell well. And so for LG to, kind of not be able to do this in an up market is kind of telling. Now, they mention a quote here from the Korea Times. LG Electronics appears to have decided to pull out of its money-losing smartphone business and entered into a transition process to relocate its mobile communications employees to other business units. So obviously for the employees, we hope that all of them are able to be, kind of restructured and removed within the organization. But the article goes on to say that LG has suffered operating losses since 2015, and despite churning out some of the most truly innovative devices, the company has not been able to turn its mobile business around. The company attempted to find a buyer, allegedly entertaining interest from Volkswagen, but the talks seem to kind of fizzle out. Now, with that being said, as recently as January, LG spokesperson said that the company was not shutting down its mobile business, and in fact, there were reports that LG was working on a new device for this year, and that includes a rollable phone. Seems like actually they also mentioned the LG Rollable was expected to offer a unique resizable screen that was capable of transforming, and I think I remember that. Very innovative, but also seemed like it was going to be rather costly to produce something like that on a massive scale. If LG is indeed shuttering its mobile business, it means that whatever it had planned for 2021 has been scrapped. LG's absence from the Android market could mean huge losses for the industry because it has come up with many great ideas. LG has also helped create legendary phones like the Nexus 5 and the Pixel 2 XL. Unfortunately for its own phones, its own brands of LG phones, unfortunately they just weren't selling. And the numbers are numbers, business is business, and it's been really kind of interesting to look online and see the comments on the story and what people are talking about. And everyone's like, oh, LG, their phones were great. I love this, blah, blah, blah. And in reality, no one was buying them. All these sympathizers coming out after it was, after they announced the closure, but before the closure, they just weren't pushing the units. And the people who say that they love their particular phone, this phone, that phone, that phone, are from years ago. And that's one of the problems, is that you can't just love that phone that you've had for a few years. You have to keep upgrading and you have to bring in new customers, and LG just was not able to do that. They say that for now, we'll wait for official confirmation. Obviously, yesterday was when this was released, and on the 5th, we'll know a lot more. But LG should be shuttering its business. So, with that being said, and, again, I'm not going to show the comments on the screen, but things like this, saying that, this is from Craig N on XDA Developers, saying, in my experience, I have never been disappointed with an LG that I've owned. And he mentioned that this never turned into brand loyalty. We have used Samsung, Moto, and LG pretty much equally. And when I think it through, I always have complaints about Samsung and Moto. From the entry phones to the flagships, LG has always delivered what was promised, and they say that, they like, so many people like the products, they're fond of the products, but I think he put it well, that did not turn into brand loyalty like people have with Apple or Samsung or Google. It just didn't work out that way. So there you have it. Obviously, LG is going to stick around in its many other electronic and appliance endeavors, but as far as smartphones go, if you have an LG phone, it might be one of the last ones that you actually purchase. So there you go. And of course, one of the last ones that you actually purchased for that. Let's go ahead and talk about this one. Seems a little strange, and we'll do this one. We'll talk about pizza for a little bit. Sorry if you're hungry. We'll talk about pizza, and then we'll talk about North Korea, because the two subjects go hand in hand so well together. So, they say that cable company Wide Open West, which of course is known as WOW, which is good. Wide Open West yesterday told customers that it is imposing a data cap. See the image here, is imposing a data cap and explain the change with a pizza analogy that would seem more appropriate for a kindergarten classroom than an email informing internet users of new artificial limits on their data usage. So the email said that WOW is introducing a monthly data usage plan for your internet service in June, and described the system as follows. And this is verbatim what the email said. We won't read it, completely through, but we're going to give its analogy, and then we'll talk about why it's a little disingenuous to compare it to pizza. Saying that imagine that the network is a pizza, piping hot, toppings galore. Every customer gets their own slice of pizza, but the size of their slice is dependent on the internet service plan. While customers who subscribe to the 1 gig get the largest slice, those who with Internet 500 get a slightly smaller piece, and so on. But it's all the same delicious high-speed pizza that you know and love. Now, say that you're not full after your slice and you grab another. That extra slice is like a data overage. Don't worry, we get extra pizza. Just in case, if you exceed your data allowance, we'll automatically apply increments of 50 gigs for $10 to your account for the remainder of the current calendar month. Total overage charges will not exceed $50 per billing statement, no matter how much data that you use. Even better, the first time you experience it, they will proactively waive the fees. How gracious of them to artificially set the limit and then say that we will forgive you the first time you break that limit. So they mentioned, Ars Technica did a great breakdown of this. The email did not mention that, unlike pizza, internet data does not run out, and that there is plenty for everyone as long as a network is properly constructed and provisioned, which is, why data overages have always been such a sticking point with so many people, critics, and, us here on the show, is that, to say that one user is using more data than they should, and they should be, pay more or lose their service or anything like that. It'd be like if you had how do you even say this? Like you have a certain amount of throughput. I mean, let's say we pay for 100 megabits per second up and down. Why is it that you get charged more when you use 100, the maximum 100 megabits per second up and down 24/7, 365, and I guarantee you will be contacted by your ISP saying, you cannot do that. Technically we sold you 100 megabits per second download speed, but you can't be using it constantly. And at that point, it's like, why are you limiting what you sold me? I didn't buy, and like the whole point of these data caps is to, quote unquote, preserve network stability or something like that. If the network is failing for the service that they are providing, that's their network's problem. That's not your problem. If their network can't handle everyone at 100%, then they need to reduce what they're offering people. And it's, you're not going to run out of, in this analogy, they were using pizza or other analogies like water or anything like that. Data is constantly generated and deleted. It's not something that there's a finite amount of. The bandwidth might have a finite amount, but overall, you're not going to run out of data. And so for them to charge you for data is completely backwards. So anyways, Ars Technica, to continue here, saying that despite the photographs comparing data to pizza, the email literally never says how much data customers will be allowed to use before they are charged extra. The answer is a newly adapted network management practice document that the monthly cap will range from 1 to 3 terabytes. The 50 megabits per second plan gets 1 terabyte, and then the 100 to 300 gets 1.5, and the 500 gets 500 and 600 megabyte plan gets 2.5 to 3 terabytes respectively. Now, the documents also point out that the amount of bandwidth usage of customer account is the sole responsibility of the customer, whether or not the usage was by customer or authorized by customer. So essentially, any app that you download, even if you never said, I want to download this and update this and that kind of thing, essentially every customer has to become a network admin, especially if they seem to be pushing those higher data caps. So they mentioned that one Ars editor got the data cap email yesterday, and a reader received it forward to us as well. And they mentioned that they live in Illinois, and so far it's the only state to get the cap. So they said that the pizza thing was making me confused, that it was an April Fool's Day joke or not. And their sole advantage over Comcast was not having a data cap until now. So, by the way, this network is found in Alabama, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, South Carolina, and Tennessee. So, they seem to be piloting it in certain areas, and then I'm sure that if it goes well, i.e., if it makes them money, they will expand it to even more places. Now, with that being said, and by the way, this network was the same one that said... This was a network that said that they were not going to impose data caps. They even had, WoW did exactly that in June 2017 with a press release titled WoW Internet, Cable and Phone Takes Consumer Side in Data Cap Debate. And of course, there's quotes, essentially them saying 4 years ago that, hey, typical internet usage is not really a problem, data caps aren't necessary, so on and so forth. So when we asked WoW numerous questions today, including why it no longer takes the consumer side on the data cap debate, obviously they sent the questions into WoW and they're looking for a response. Comcast, the biggest internet provider in the US, imposes a data cap in 27 of 39 states that it operates in. And they mentioned that Comcast announced it would expand the cap to the rest of the territories starting January 2021, but delayed that due to COVID, which again is the craziest part. You would think that the data cap would be more needed than ever. As people are working from home, they're shifting their data usage, they are staying at home more, their viewing habits, their entertainment habits may shift to video games, streaming, TV, data, online shopping, all this other data-intensive stuff. And no, in fact, they're waiving the data caps for another year as people are using more internet. This has always been and always will be a ploy to, charge a certain amount of people money, and hopefully, they're hoping that they start at the very top, say, 3 terabytes. I gotta admit, not many people are going to be using 3 terabytes a month, but as always, you start at 3 terabytes, 0.1% of people actually hit that. You start charging them, and then you bring it down until you get a reasonable number of people reliably hitting that data cap that you can then charge people for. It's another revenue stream instead of just, hey, if you need to improve your network, raise prices across the board. And then of course that lets the consumer decide. This is another attempt at hiding the true cost of internet. So there you go. Anywho, let's see. So let's see if we can go here. I think we'll go ahead and end it here. Let's see. So the WoW email to customers said that the average user will consume far less data than their plan allows, and only a small percentage will be impacted by the overage fees. And again, this is a quote. This small percentage includes behaviors like servers or file sharing applications that consume extreme amounts of data, and the vast majority of customers will not be impacted by the overage fees. They say that but data usage has risen quickly during the pandemic, and about 15% of U.S. households now have over 1 terabyte of data per month, up from 7.3 in the quarter 4 of 2019. So in just a year, you've had double the amount of people use large amounts of data. And honestly, I would say that, one terabyte to 1.5 terabyte is kind of what the average user would do. And again, personally, I'm not at all opposed to things like file sharing applications or using servers from the home, especially if it's, kind of a smaller kind of server. I mean, there should be nothing wrong with doing that. If your needs can be satisfied with, according to them, 600 megabits per second up in, download speed, and I'm sure something less upload speed. But if your needs could be satisfied by their service, why is it that when you use their service, they get really angry at you? That makes no sense to me. So again, data caps, they will always be a sticking point for a lot of people. And hey, you just don't like to see it. But it does tend to be what's happening lately. So there you go. Okay, there's that story. We can go ahead and move on to story number 4. And story number 4, let's talk about Tesla real quick. And for the company that is so innovative, I don't see why they can't fall into the same trap that Apple finds themselves in every once in a while. Apple and Mercedes and so many other companies, they over-engineer. They try too hard. They try to be innovative where no one's asking for innovation, and it can actually be a problem. That's why you get this article here. Tesla's touchscreen shifter seems like a really bad idea. So they said that the automakers tried to complicate our lives by using D for drive instead of F for forward, and putting R towards the top of the lever's options and drive towards the back. And by the way, this is coming to us from Motor Trend. Still, though, the seemingly foolproof design has led to the demise of many, many garage doors over the decades, generally, even the most dim-witted among us could generally figure out how to get their cars going in the desired direction. Well said. Now, saying that since the arrival of the 2002 BMW 7 Series, it seems automakers are on a mission to overcomplicate what should be a mindless task. And they say that, it should be a mindless task by equipping various vehicles with a succession of electronic levers that must be tugged, slid, pushed, pulled, rotated, and prayed to in the most inconceivable patterns. So, with that being said, you have this tweet here, which, it's not working because of the way I have my audio settings. I could play it, but don't need to. Anyways, they said that Tesla has come up with a new and even more complex shifting mechanism for the 2021 Model S and Model X, the touchscreen. The updated Tesla Model Center screen seemed to feature an icon on the car on the left side of the display, which users then drag up to put the car into drive and drag down to put the car into reverse. Yeah, probably not that necessary. In fact, let's see, if we do this and we mute this, we can go ahead and play that there. Boy, I hope this is a joke. Obviously, this is sent out, well, I guess March 24th, so not exactly April Fool's, but it's not good. At first glance, the setup seems elegantly simple. Look closer, though, and you'll likely stumble on a few flaws. For one, sorry about that, everyone. Sorry about that. That's not supposed to happen at all. Anywho, sorry about that. Okay, so to continue on, they said that at first glance, setup seems elegant, simple. Again, if you're just joining us, and we apologize for that. Yeah, we're talking about the touchscreen shifting of the Tesla car. And they say that at first glance seems simple, but for the uninitiated, such as a valet, may never think to look on the touchscreen for this function. Because obviously, cars have, for the longest time, yeah, they've not had to do this. They said that, and of course, all you want is these strange shifters other automakers have developed over the years, but at least these setups are generally located in typical spots such as the steering wheel column or center tunnel. Problem number 2 is the real problem, the one the government and the mainstream media don't want you to know about. Okay, is that touchscreens can fail. And they say that the touchscreen will fail. In fact, Tesla's most recent recall has to do with the fact that, they fail for an alarming amount of times. In fact, they say that it sent out 135,000 cars out of its factory doors with an NVIDIA Tegra 3 chip with a lifetime of about 3,000 program erase cycles. Translated to human time, that's about 5 to 6 years of driving before the screen finally went to, as they say, the big dashboard in the sky. Yeah, that's definitely on the lower end of what you can expect a tablet to do. But hopefully that's a pretty simple fix. Anyways, they said that bear in mind this led the government mandated recall because in a Tesla, no screen means no access to functions such as hazard lights and rear defrosters, all of which are required by law. Now they said that said, it seems that this is an override function that he referred to when he tweeted, no gear shifter, no turn signal, no problem, no more stalks, the car guesses drive direction based on what obstacles it sees, context, and navigation map. You can override on a touchscreen. So this is, once again, Elon Musk trying to blue sky it and say, this is what I feel the car of the future should be. And it should be no shifter, no nothing. Yeah. That's what it should be. Yeah. So that, and he said, all right, maybe this is kind of cool. That said, it also seems like something prone to go really, really wrong. Obviously, the more automation you put into it, the more electronics you put into it, the more everything you put into it, the less chance you have of it failing. And unfortunately, I kind of agree with the author on this one. This one seems to be very much, over-engineered for sure. So there you go. Now, how about this article? Not an April Fool's joke. Super Mario Brothers, the one that is available to anyone, emulated many, many times. And check this one out. Super Mario Brothers, the game, a physical copy, has been sold at auction for $660,000. Boy, don't you regret opening yours. Saying that a pristine condition sealed early copy of Super Mario Bros. Sold for $660,000 in an online auction today. So that includes $550,000 to the seller and $110,000 for the buyer's premium paid to Heritage Auctions. The final gavel came after 13 bidders placed 36 different bids, including a heavy proxy bidding before the live auction commenced on Friday. So they mentioned that the sale obliterates $156,000 for Super Mario 3 that it sold last November, and a crowdsourced collectible platform rally paid $140 for a sealed Super Mario Bros. Last year, the previous record for that game. So obviously this is going to be a piece of history, and hey, it's kind of where Mario got his start and where Nintendo got its start. A sealed copy, perfect condition, Super Mario Brothers. Now, the seller of the sealed copy, who asked to remain anonymous publicly, told them that the game was purchased as a Christmas gift in 1985 before sitting untouched at the bottom of a desk drawer for 35 years before being discovered, saying it stayed in the bottom of my office desk this whole time since the day I bought it, saying I never thought anything about it. A collector, and he didn't even know it, saying as soon as this copy of Super Mario Bros. Arrived at the Heritage, we knew the market would find it just as sensational as we did. Even so, the degree to which the game was embraced outside the market has been nothing short of exceptional, and that aspect of the sale has certainly exceeded our expectations. So there you go. Now, unlike some earlier high-priced Super Mario Bros. Sales, this copy isn't from the earliest production run of the game, but it was still in the same year. They mentioned that it was sealed only with a small sticker, and which was only sold in New York City during NES's late 1985 test market run. But this copy is one of the earliest shrink-wrapped editions of the game, sold in late 1986. And the copy received an incredible 9.6 out of 10 for the quality scale, and it was near mint condition. It was superbly preserved, as in not touched. Saying that to put the sale into some context, the only known extant prototype of the unproduced Nintendo PlayStation, a unique and important part of video game history, sold for $380,000. And they even mentioned back in 2014, a world's largest collection of 11,000 video games sold for $750,000. The price of video game history, and that's definitely what this is, the price of video game history is definitely on the upswing. Video games have influenced our lives so much, and it's very cool to see that the fervor for it continues to grow. Let's see. So they also mentioned a rare sealed Mega Man variant that misidentifies Dr. Willy as Dr. Wright on the box, sold for $144,000, and the first non-Mario game to sell for a six-figure sum. And they also mentioned a very high-grade copy of Super Mario 3's sold for $52,000. So there you go. You can see it there, near mint condition, sitting in a desk drawer. How many other copies are in the exact same boat? I'm curious. So, with that being said, we can go ahead and move on to our next topic. And hey, why don't we go ahead and I was about to say get into North Korea, but that sounds like a horrible idea. Get into this topic covering North Korea's latest plans. So you can see that here. North Korea hackers are now using a fake security company to target researchers, saying that researchers at Google's LLC Threat Analysis Group are warning that the same North Korea hackers who targeted security researchers earlier this year have now set up a new website and fake social media profiles for a fake company called Security Elite. So it's like security, except you just stop at the TY and you just say elite. So, yeah. In the initial report in January, the Google researchers warned that the North Korea Advanced Persistent Threat Group was specifically targeting security researchers working on vulnerability research and development at various companies and organizations. So, with that being said, the campaign involved the Korean hackers establishing a research blog and multiple Twitter accounts in an effort to build credibility and connect with security researchers. Now, the blog included write-ups and analysis of vulnerabilities that have been publicly disclosed and included guest posts from legitimate security researchers who had been tricked into believing that the publication was legitimate. I think I have even received some of those emails myself, offering to write or host articles that we have written and, asking if they could publish articles on their sites, which seems to be one of the ways that they trick people, is that, they build up these fake profiles, write these articles, give them out for free to be published in different places, and then, hey, you got that little shred of credibility, just like when, we have, let's say, New York Times, the Washington Post tech journalists here on the program, we aren't the New York Times, but we suddenly, become associated with enough that we, kind of have that clout as well. They're trying to do the same thing on a much larger scale, trying to embed themselves as quickly as possible so that they can then, get people to cooperate with them. Which, being North Korea, I'm guessing there's a few sanctions there over, sharing of secrets and sharing of information, and it's probably illegal to do that. So they mentioned the blog, so it would seem was just the beginning. The Security Elite website, described by Google Wednesday, claims to be a cybersecurity company based in Turkey that offers penetration testing, software security assessment, and exploits. The website, like the blog before it, also includes a link to a PGP public key at the bottom of the page, allowing security researchers to send messages to the fake company confidentially. Perfect. And actually, I want to see if this thing is still up. So let's see. Let's highlight this, right click, search the web, and yeah, Secure Elite Twitter is still up and running. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It's actually been suspended already. Good for them. Let's see. Yep. The website itself does not seem to be operational anymore. Actually, here it is. Yep. And when you try to pull it up, you can see that here. Warning, visiting this website may harm your computer, and they mention all this other stuff here. Yeah, saying that you can continue on at your own risk, but yeah, Secure Elite, North Korea propaganda. So the new fake social media members profile are similar to the established earlier this year and include LinkedIn impersonating recruiters for antivirus and security company, along with a range of fake Twitter Inc. accounts that supposedly belong to employees of the fake company, saying that malicious actors have been increasingly sophisticated in their approach to email attacks, and it's no longer a brute force numbers game where large volumes of mediocre lures are blasted to inboxes. That's because companies have gotten very good at stopping these types of attacks. Essentially, what happened here was that North Korea used tunneling software or VPNs to appear like they were coming out of Turkey. And then once they were, kind of broadcasting from Turkey, started a fake company, registered a fake.com, registered a bunch of fake profiles on Facebook and Twitter, made fake profiles on LinkedIn, got themselves articles embedded into other publications that were not associated with North Korea whatsoever, tried to build up some notoriety and clout and, some background on themselves. And then they were trying to get security researchers to share information privately with them, all without even knowing that they were actually North Korean operatives. They said that modern attacks are taking the time to effectively impersonate partners, vendors, and in this case, a fake security company. Novel attacks like this are impossible for traditional email security technologies to detect because, again, hey, this all is as legitimate as it can be on the back end. And they mentioned that that's why today's threats landscape requires a modern approach to email security that leverages behavioral data science to establish a clear understanding of the organization. So there you go. Essentially what they're saying, you need to be more holistic with it. You can't just say, oh, that's North Korea. It's like, no, there will be no way to actually be able to tell something like that is happening. Still, pretty cool. Pretty cool, but pretty bad. And I'm glad that they actually got caught. So now, one thing that I'm surprised wasn't a thing until I just found out just now. Check this one out. Google puts limits on which apps can see what's installed on an Android device. And this seems so obvious. Like this happened before when you're looking at Facebook did this, where they were limiting the amount of data or what type of data that you were able to do this. That was after Apple said the exact same thing. Essentially, let's pretend that you're Apple and you are working with an app that does camera filters, so that you can look like different things. It makes you question, why does a camera filter that is supposed to, overlay a digital image over your face, why do they need location? It's like, oh, maybe they might have some local specific filters. Maybe, okay, that's kind of iffy, but sure, we'll allow it. Why do you need their contacts? It's like, well, you probably don't. Why do you need all the other apps that are running on that phone? And it's like, probably you don't. There was a time just a year or two ago that apps took all the data that they possibly could. Even if they never used it, even if they never needed it, it's like these little pots of gold that, hey, it might come handy down the road, or we might need it eventually. And if not, we can always package it up and sell it anyways. That's why every app asks for your contacts. That's why every app asks for your location. Every app asks for your camera, microphone permissions, things like that. I mean, it's not strictly needed, but hey, it's there, so why not? Google looks like they're finally putting the lid on the exact same problem that every other company has, started to do, saying that only antivirus programs, file managers, and similar applications will be able to see what other apps are on the user's device, and thereby essentially saying, if you need access to what other apps are on this phone, you have to be completely justified. Like it has to be a core function of, kind of what, why is this happening here? So yeah, there you go. We can go ahead and get to the article here. It should be pretty quick though. But they mentioned, as XDA developers has noticed, the tech giant has updated its developer program policy to limit the kinds of apps that can request the query all packages permission, as in packages, of course, being applications, installed applications, what's on here, which returns the full list of installed apps on a device that runs Android 11 or later. According to the update, Play regards the device inventory of installed apps queried from a user's device as personal and sensitive information. Makes perfect sense. As such, Google will now only grant query all packages permission requests if the core user-facing functionality needs to be able to discover any and other installed applications. You can imagine why security would have to do that. You can imagine why program or data management or application management programs would need that as well. But hey, Flappy Bird probably doesn't need that. So the new policy could make it harder for bad actors to spy on your device for nefarious purposes. It remains to be seen whether it'll be just as effective as the policy change back in 2018, which was also meant to clamp down on Android app abuse of permission. saying that that particular one that happened a few years ago, the tech giant said last year that it was so effective it saw a 98% drop in the number of Play Store applications accessing those information. Not 100, but 98 is a darn good number, especially up from, 0. It's a good move, and again, I was wondering, why the heck was it allowed in the first place? So, who the heck knows? Okay, let's see. We can go ahead and move on from that one to, let's see. Okay, our next story, and honestly, we have time for about 2 more. How about we talk about... Look up one thing here. I apologize for this. Normally have this all laid out here. Okay. That'd be good to talk about. And we can also talk about, let's see. How about this one and this one? All right. The BBC had some pretty good ones. BBC Tech. Check this one out. Oppo. And actually, this is a really short. Let's see if there's actually more to this elsewhere. Actually don't see it. Why is this so short? Oppo, which you may not know, it's very much because it's a video, and we're not going to play that. It was Oppo, which you may not know about. They are a smartphone company, or brand, I should say, in China, and sometimes these kind of off-brands or brands that aren't as well known, especially here in the United States, one of the ways that they are trying to get popularity is by bragging that they have the best camera. And that's why you have some stories like, camera with 120 times zoom, or, camera with, depth sensing and things like that. Well, here we go. A microscope camera has been added to the latest Oppo smartphone, and it will have a 60x, 60 times microscope attached to the camera. And yeah, they show an image of a match head, very, very close. I could imagine the applications for this will be rather limited. I mean, how many people really need a 60 times microscope to really get at what they're doing? But it is pretty cool, nonetheless. I know many schools out there, that for educational purposes, that don't even have the magnification of this. I had a magnification kind of unit when I was growing up. The thing hardly ever worked, but I remember it having like a 10 times, a 20 times, and like a 40 times magnification, and we thought that was super cool. Not so much nowadays, but to have that packed into a smartphone, though, not half bad. So that was that story. And again, I apologize, that was the video. I didn't really realize that. We can talk about this one, though. And this is a topic that comes up every so often, and that's loot boxes. Loot boxes, if you are completely out of the loop, they are these things that you pay for in games that give you loot. And they've been a hazy area because they don't explicitly tell you what's in them. They get around gambling by saying that you are getting the value that you paid for every single time. Let's say it costs $2 for a loot box. By and large, there's a lot of common items. There's a few uncommon items. There's a couple of rare items. And then there are extremely few, epic gold items or whatever. And these super rare gold items are only found in like 1 every 100 loot box. But every single time you open a loot box, you are guaranteed some of those common and uncommon and rare items. So you are essentially getting what you paid for. You paid for $2, you got $2 worth of stuff. The problem, though, is that it kind of amounts to gambling, because no one is buying those and saying, man, I hope I get a bunch of regular stuff. No, you tease them with what they think is going to be the best of the best, the absolute awesome items. It's only going to be $2, maybe the next box, maybe the next box. Yeah, it's pulling that lever, playing the slots machine over and over and over again that is explicitly targeted at children. And that's the problem. So now we have this article here from BBC saying that the link between gaming loot boxes and problem gambling has been robustly verified according to a new report. And this is by the universities of Plymouth and Wolverhampton, found that loot boxes are structurally and psychologically akin to gambling. Everyone else in the world says, well, duh. That should be obvious. There's there's few jackpots, and boy, it costs money to play the game. So there you go. Now, the UK government is already considering whether gambling laws should cover such loot boxes. Loot boxes are, of course, video games like we mentioned, or they're a feature of many video games like we mentioned. The new research commissioned by the Gamble Aware charity compiles existing research to examine the strength between the links of in-game random prizes and gambling behavior. In the articles, it found that 93% of children who play video games, up to 40% opened loot boxes, which honestly seems super low. I mean, if you have the loot boxes there, and by the way, they kind of tease you into it because just by playing the game, they will generally give you loot boxes, just not at the rate to which to collect everything, unless you invest a heavy amount of time into it. Now, about 5% of the gamers generate half of the entire revenue from the boxes, which, yeah, that sounds like problem gamblers. 12 out of 13 studies on the topic have established unambiguous connections to problem gambling behavior. And young men are most likely to use loot boxes, with young age and lower education correlating with increased usage. You can imagine that, they're targeting young, uneducated males. Yeah, just like gambling. Saying that many gamers do ascribe discrete financial values to loot box contents based on purchase or resale price, suggesting that many loot boxes meet existing criteria for gambling regulation. Now, the big spenders, which again is that 5%, can spend more than about $100 a month on the boxes, and that's according to the reports. But those are not necessarily wealthy people who earn lots of money. No, they're actually people who, they say it better here with a quote. Our research therefore demonstrates that gamers develop, unwittingly or not, appear to be generating outsized loot box profits from at-risk individuals, but not from wealthy gamers, it concluded. So among the author's recommendations were that the regulation has extremely precise definitions to avoid any possible workarounds, that loot boxes are included in game labeling and age ratings, and that the odds of winning items clearly shown, including the average cost of enough boxes to obtain a rare item. That is one thing many people have been asking for. I mean, it's one thing to have a loot box, but to not publish the probability or odds of getting an item. 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, that kind of thing. It's just, you could get it, you could get it, you could get it, and never actually listing the specific item that people want and the odds of getting it. Because I think that if people saw that there was a 1 in 5,000 chance to get that item from that loot box, no one's in their right mind is going to play the odds and buy 5,000 of those loot boxes. But every week, maybe every month, 50 boxes here, 20 boxes there, and just keep trying for that item, unknowingly that it's just not in their favor to actually get it, regardless of how much money they actually spend. So, a spokesman for Yuki, the national games industry body, said that the game companies had already taken action. And I think it's now clearly labeled when a game includes loot boxes, it includes gambling, and I think some have included odds. But all of this has come as regulators are taking a closer look at that industry. It's not saying that they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart. It's, hey, profits are being generated. They want to keep that going. And so they're going to take as little initiative as possible and keep things the way they are. So there you go. So with that being said, we have time for one more story, and we can talk about okay. You know what? We'll end on something stupid. Why not? I've never heard of this pair, but hey, that doesn't mean that they're not famous to certain circles. BBC, they said that a pair of YouTubers who have pleaded guilty to faking a bank robbery that led to an unsuspecting Uber driver being held at gunpoint by police. So Alan and Alex Stokes, 24, who have 6 million followers on their channel, wore essentially, bank robbing gear, and called an Uber as a getaway vehicle. But the driver, who was unaware of the prank, refused to drive them. A judge in California sentenced the twins to community service and a year's probation for misdemeanor, and they could have faced up to 5 years in prison for the prank. They mentioned that they filmed themselves staging a series of bank heists in 2019. In one video, the pair wore black and carried bags apparently stuffed with banknotes before getting into an Uber. The witness believed that the two men had just robbed a bank and were attempting to carjack the Uber's driver. Police arrived and ordered the Uber driver at gunpoint. And obviously, anytime that you have the police pull their guns, that situation obviously has the potential to turn deadly. So, there you go. So the article goes on to mention how common this is and how how much of a problem this is. They also mentioned one case in Tennessee just a couple months ago where a teenager lost his life for a fake robbery. So something stupid. Don't do that. Don't pull pranks. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. Again, apologize for the noise. Have a great weekend. We'll catch you here next week. Everyone, bye-bye.